Hey YouTube, Meef here. Welcome to episode 35 of our FTB Continuum quick tips and tricks. Um, so episode 35 is going to be about ME crafting. And we're going to talk about some of the machines that are required to do that. And some of the other caveats that we're going to have to take a look at in order to make this thing work. So let's go over the machines first. You're going to know early on that I made a ME pattern terminal. Now the whole point of this pattern terminal is this is where you're going to start punching stuff in order to get your blank patterns and then encode the pattern to make a full pattern. Now there's a few different functions here. There's processing patterns and then there's crafting patterns. We're going to go with some of the basic just crafting patterns for right now, but there is ways to actually change this stuff up a little bit. We're going to go over that. So this is pretty much the pattern terminal. Now there's another one that goes along with this, and this is the ME interface terminal. So what we can do is, since I've got this molecular assembler set here, this machine knows it's out on the network because there's a certain amount of detection out there. Each one of these slots here will fit a recipe. So you can see that because of the ME interface, you can hang a certain amount of these molecular assemblers off of these things. The only reason I've got this set up the way I've got it set up is that crafting storage really should be set up on its own loop, but these should function, and we're going to prove that out. It says device online, so it should work. Right now, for a very basic crafting computer, because that's what this is, we're just going to set it up like this. But let's make a pattern here. I think I have some blank patterns in the network here, so I have a few of those. So we've got that set up. Let's take a look at ME pattern terminal. So these are pretty cheap, just an engineering processor and your standard ME crafting terminal. So that should get you going with that. And this, what was this actually called? It is an interface terminal. ME interface terminal. So this one is a little bit more complicated to make, but just an illuminated panel engineering processor, and then you need a ME interface. These ME interfaces really aren't all that expensive. So you've got a couple formation cores here. It seems that I find myself running out of these more often than not. So usually as soon as I can make a stack of them, I will make, you know, an entire stack, depending on, you know, if you have the stuff for it. So you have that. And let's take a look at what we got here. So I'm going to put some blank patterns up in this top slot. And you're going to have to bear with me because some of this stuff has changed slightly. So we're going to fly by the seat of our pants here and work through this together to get this going. So let's take a look. I think what we're going to do first here is I was looking at batteries because in the next 3 or 4 episodes we're going to start some different power generation here. But let's look at batteries. Let's look at our singles to start with, and we're going to look at a basic coil. So here we've got some Restonia crystals and then a black quartz. So I've got some of this stuff set in the network. Just enough items has really spoiled us, so let's move these items. We can get this all set up in the pattern terminal. You'll notice here that the recipe comes up as a basic coil, so we can encode this pattern. Let's take a look over here at, we can run these in tandem actually, you don't have to keep doing that. You can use this encoder, you can use this as a crafting terminal too. I've upgraded these in the past to make this work. You know, see, you can pull a basic coil out of here, no problem. You can use this however you want, so feel free. But let's take a look at, we've got a bunch of this stuff sitting in the network, so this shouldn't be a big deal. Let's encode this. So there we have it. We have an encoded pattern, so it crafts one basic coil with 1 block of quartz and 4 Restonia crystals. There's no substitutions here. Now we can change some of this stuff out. Usually I like to keep this as pure as possible. So usually if there's a like an OR dictionary machine, I'll use that because I like to have all my shit as one. And if we look here, I'm pretty sure there is. It's one of these guys that will change all that shit over for you so you don't have to worry about it. It might be in the previous. I'm not sure what it's even called in this set of mod packs, but I'm going to get to that and we'll go over it. We're just not going to do it in this one. But the machine itself pretty much just transfers, you know, all of the stuff into one set. Yeah. Whatever, fuck it. I'm not going to worry about that right now. That's not what we need to be worried about. So I'm going to pull this pattern out of here. It shows up as an encoded pattern. Now, if you actually take these out and put these in your hand and shift click, I think it goes back to a blank pattern. So you can erase, plug and play, do whatever you want. Oh shit, I just put that back into the network. See, it goes back to a blank pattern. Let's re-encode it. Now, there's a couple ways we can put these into the network. We can go right over to the ME interface, and we could put these in here if we wanted to. And we could also do these in the molecular assembler. But usually what I like to do is put these bad boys right into the ME interface terminal. And there we go. Now, the way this works, and we can kind of configure this stuff. There's a whole shitload of options here, and we're not going to get into this stuff right now. We're just going to do some of the basic stuff. But you'll see here that once it's in here, this is available. So one basic coil, I put this in through over here, so we could take this back out. You'll see it's gone, so we know it's this machine. Put it back in, and there it is. So there you have that. Let's test this. Now the interface is going to be a little bit different. So we've got our crafting status here. You can see that there's no crafting job active. Right here with this, since we're going to do, we're going to call this, it's going to be a basic coil. You're going to see that since I have none in the network, that it's going to show up with craft on it. So we know that this, we could select this for whatever amount. I want to do 1. I'm going to hit next. Crafting CPU, it's going to be automatic, and we're just going to click start. So there's 39 bytes being used here. This isn't a complicated recipe. I'm going to start this just so that we can get it going. You can see that it already crafted it. It's that fast. Now, depending on how far you upgrade the computer, your crafting storage, you're going to notice that you'll see that, so we had 39 bytes just for that crafting recipe. That 1K crafting storage will cover that. So it's only going to take the 39 bytes out of our 1,000 bytes or 1K that we have available. Your bigger crafting recipes that require multiple crafts from multiple machines are going to take up stupid amounts of crafting storage. And there's also some crafting co-processors that can help speed that stuff up. But for these basic crafts, just know that your 1K crafting storage will get you by. So let's take a look at these and how this works. Let's just go right into applied energistics. So we've got a few things here. Let's look at our 1K crafting storage because this is our basic unit. This is just a crafting unit with a 1K ME storage component. So these aren't complicated to make. Let's look at our crafting unit. These also aren't complicated to make. So there's that. Okay. So get one of these bad boys going. You'll notice the block looks a little bit different, but once they hook into the network, they change. So that's how that looks. You'll see here that you can get crazy into 64K crafting storage. Eventually, you're going to need them. When you're doing massive crafting operations, you can get machines involved. You can do some really crazy fun stuff with this. So just keep that in mind. That's there. Let's take a look at our molecular storage here. This isn't all that complicated. Just some quartz glass, annihilation formation core, and then a workbench. Now, there's some things you can do with this. We're not going to get into this right now because I think the way these molecular assemblers work, I think it's kind of redundant. But there are some upgrades and stuff that you can put in here. I think the acceleration card is one of them. Yeah, you can put 5 of those bad boys into this molecular assembler to get this thing really cranking stuff out, but I've never needed it yet. Maybe in the set of mod packs we'll actually go through it. I was thinking that I'd like to do an individual set just on AE2, but just because we're playing in Continuum right now, we're going to go through the basic stuff to get this thing rocking and rolling and get you using it so that you can automatically start crafting stuff. And make it super easy so you can be an even more lazy Minecrafter, because that is the goal in my mind. So that is what these look like. All this stuff takes up channels. Just keep that in mind. So I've got this hooked up to the ass end of a dense smart cable. We kind of talked about this earlier, but you can see that there's several channels sucked up here. And some of this stuff needs to be adjusted. Like this is making loops that I'm not really a fan of, so I'll clean that stuff up later, but that's just kind of how this looks. What I'd like to do is get some smart cables on here to see what I've sucked up here. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 channels off there, and there's some more hanging off here, but all these guys take up a channel as far as I know. This ME interface, I think it takes up 1. But anyway, we'll confirm that. We'll do some more testing once I get some smart cables made, but that's really what this is all about. So let's try one more crafting pattern here that's going to require multiple crafts to happen. Why don't we let's look at batteries again. And let's get an advanced coil set. Let's encode a pattern. Pull this out, and we're going to put this right into our interface. Where did it go? Oh, that's right. If you hit shift, any of these encoded patterns will show up with what the picture looks like. So whatever the little icon is, just keep that in mind. So if you're like, what the fuck, you know, where's my encoded pattern? This is where it is. So if you're hitting shift, ready to shift click this in here, you can't do it. Shift just shows up. So place it in there, and that's what it looks like. So let's take a look here. We're going to go over to our regular crafting monitor. Let's take a look at our view here for craftable items. Let's get that out of here. So here's how this looks. So if we switch this over to only craftable, we'll see only craftable items here. Now you can see that there's an advanced coil and a basic coil. And just to verify, let's make sure that we've got none of these coils in the network, which we don't, because otherwise there would be a number here rather than craft. Let's go just back to craftable. And let's craft one of these bad boys, because I think we have the materials. And let's do 1. I'm going to hit next. Now you can see here that we went from 39 bytes up to 73 bytes. Here you can see what it's using. But it's going to use a significant amount of crafting storage to make this happen. Now there's some other things you can do here with the crafting CPU. The initial stuff, there's no coprocessors on here, which isn't a big deal because we're not going to have to worry about that stuff right now. If we're to go through and work on this some more later, which we will, we'll upgrade it, but we're going to need some coprocessors to make the operations run a little bit faster. So I usually leave this on automatic. You can specify where it goes later on, but we're not going to worry about that just yet. So keep that in mind. Let's start this and see if we come up with what we need to come up with. And it looks like, let's go back to coil, and there you can see we have one here. So let's take a look at this one more time. Since our crafting view is only going to show you your craftable stuff, let's do this. We're going to do 1, start it, and it just completely skips the basic coil and goes right to the advanced coil. So it's kind of cool. But that's it. There are some more config stuff we can get into here, but I think for right now, we won't get into this stuff. We're gonna have to later because there's some other stuff that we can do with it. And I think we can set priorities on here too, but we're not going to do that just yet either, just because the system isn't big enough to do that. Once you start setting priorities, you can tell some of your smaller crafting units to go different places based on where they are in the interface. And we've had that work for really, really huge crafts, for stuff like reactor casings or turbine casings that requires reactor casings, that requires plutonium to go through reprocessing, you know, with cyanide. It's pretty crazy what you can do with this stuff. But that is your basic, very, very basic setup to get yourself going with patterns here. We can do one more of these quick since I got a little bit of time here. We're only at that 15-minute mark. I'd like to keep it under 20. Let's go ahead and see if I think I've got enough of these in the network, but let's craft the pattern here and encode it. Let's take a look at what we've got for Inori. It looks like there is 38 in there. Do we have any batteries in the system yet? It looks like no. Let's put this bad boy into our molecular assembler. And let's just say I'm looking for a battery. Now, I don't have one here, so we should be okay. I think there are probably some coils in here already. There's not, but let's try it. I'm going to put these coils back into the network. And I want a battery. Give me that single battery. Give me just one. 97 bytes. We don't have to do it. You're going to see that this is different. So these are available. All this stuff's ready to rock. Let's start it. So we're at 97 bytes here. Let's start it. There we have one battery. We're going to do another because I got some upgrades I need to do around this base as far as power is concerned. I'm going to make another couple high power cells. So there we've got another one. And my shit is charging it, which I don't necessarily want it to do, but I'm not going to change it. Let's get to where we actually have to start crafting some of this other stuff. I'm going to need 4 of them right away anyway. Let's do one more. Still at 97 bytes. Okay, let's take our coils out. Whatever coil was in here, we're pulling these bastards out. And let's go back to battery. Uno. Okay. Now, so this is the whole process. This is from scratch. So you'll notice here that we went from 97 bytes up to 113. So this is the entire craft. So we're forced to craft the initial stuff for the basic coil. So the basic coil is the block or the black quartz, and then 4 of these Restonias. We get our advanced coil by the 8 nickel nuggets and a basic coil. Once we've got that, it's the advanced coil with 1 of these Restonia and then 5 of these Inori crystals in order to get this bad boy. So we've increased this. You can kind of tell 113 bytes used. This is 3 different patterns. This is really basic shit. But you notice that there is cost to it. Now, it's not all that much depending on what you're doing with it. Again, it's not too bad. But let's start this real quick. You can see over here. Did it actually do it? I think it did. It's just going really fast. Yep, there's the battery right there. I think what I'm going to do is let's pull this off of here. And let's recraft this. And start. Now, you'll see here that we've started this. In our status, you notice that there's nothing going on. So this will kind of show you what the hell is going on. If you notice that, what the hell, you know, my stuff isn't coming out of here, check on your crafting status. So here you can see that these aren't going. Now you can look at it. So CPU 0, we know that there's only 1 in the system. We can go take a look at it and see, okay, what is wrong with our setup here? What in the hell is going on? Take a look at this. Yep, this stuff looks good. We can right click on our storage and say, okay, yep, something's still screwed up here. You know, what's going on? You know, is it the molecular assembler that's not right? Oh, well, there you can see it. You just saw the icons blow by, created it. Yep, nothing in the crafting status. It's done. So keep that in mind. Crafting status is up there. We're going to get into some more of this stuff a little bit later on. some of the configuration stuff, but this will get you to your basic stuff. So we've technically automated the single battery. You don't have to manually craft that stuff anymore. It's just ready to go. So we can keep going with this. The single battery, we can do double batteries, and I don't know if I've got enough of these to do it or enough blank patterns, but let's take a look real quick. We're at that 20-minute mark. I think I have the stuff for it. Let's do one, I guess. And let's do a battery. So here's our double. Always use the one that's not full on here when you're clicking these over. So here's a double battery. Let's encode it. Let's sneak this in here. So we've got a double battery. Let's do one. It seems we've got everything here in order. Let's start it. And it takes a minute, but there we have it. There's our double battery. So encode those patterns, get yourself some crafting shit together, and just start going to town, because this is going to make your life a hell of a lot easier. Once you start expanding out, once you run out of places to start putting patterns, start attaching new ME interfaces, and you can make it work. So you're going to need dense smart cables. We'll get into a little bit management stuff in the next episode or two here on how to make this work a little bit better, because all this shit's going downstairs in the newly renovated area. And then we'll talk a little bit more about how to expand the ME network and reorganize. So that's it for this episode. Until next time.